am Ulysses S. Grant. I was born on April 27, 1822 as Hiram Ulysses Grant in Point Pleasant, Ohio, in this house. So, my parents were Jesse and Hannah Grant. My father, Jesse, was a tanner. I hated the bloody business of tanning, but I loved anything that had to do with horses. When I was 17, I was accepted into West Point Military Academy. Soon after I got there, I realized my name had been entered wrong, and from then on, I was known as Ulysses Simpson Grant, which Simpson was my mother's maiden name. At graduation, me and my horse York were required to jump over a bar that was more than 6 feet high. We made the jump and set a record that lasted for 25 years. So after I graduated from West Point, I served in the Army and fought in the Mexican War. When I returned home from the Mexican War, me and my wife had 4 children. Jesse was in this picture with my wife Julia, Ulysses Jr., Frederick, and Nellie. I had lots of pets. My favorite was my horse Cincinnatus. I also had dogs and a parrot. I liked horses and riding them fast. Once I even had to pay a $20 fine for speeding with my horse and carriage. When the Civil War broke out, I rejoined the Army. As general, I led Union troops to victory against the Confederate armies. I was nicknamed Unconditional Surrender since that was the only kind of surrender I would accept from the Confederate armies. So, General Robert E. Lee gave me his unconditional surrender, which ended the war, leaving me and the northern states with victory. As a war hero, I easily won the presidential election in 1868. I served for 2 terms, 1869 through 1877. Some of the accomplishments during my presidency were that I signed and enforced civil rights laws, helped rebuild the Republican Party in the South, an effort that resulted in the election of African Americans to Congress and state governments for the first time. I had a difficult presidency because of corruption. Even though I was an honest and honorable man, some of the people I hired to work in the government were dishonest and corrupt. And after I left office, I traveled the world for 2 years. I was greeted as warmly as a war hero everywhere I visited. When I got back to the U.S., I lived in New York. A crooked banker cheated me out of all of my money. I began writing and was informed that I had throat cancer the very same year. I died on July 23rd, 1885, days after completing my memoirs. My memoirs earned $450,000 for my family. Most presidents aren't lucky enough to have their face put on U.S. currency, but today you can see me on the $50 bill. I am Ulysses S. Grant, 18th President of the United States.
President Grant.
Ryan.
And now
Home run.
we would like to say hello to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt.